Hi, welcome to a Moon Moment with Mama Mandala. I'm Hagar. I'm so glad you're here on this new moon with me. It's a new moon in Pisces, and the season of Pisces just began. And this lunar cycle is beginning with this zodiac sign that closes off, in fact, the wheel of the zodiac. It's the last sign on the wheel of the zodiac right before the whole journey begins again. And on spring equinox, with Aries being born and initiated into a new process, a new cycle, a new journey. And so with Pisces, we close off a journey. We dissolve the experiences that we've had on the journey into a completion, a sense of completion, into a place that holds the entirety of it. So it's an archetype that calls us into a dissolution of self and a merging with the infinite, a release of individuality into the embrace of the universe in its wholeness. And so this begs the question, when are we not merged with the infinite? We are always a part of something greater than ourselves. And this can be a spiritual conversation, and it can be a very down to earth, tangible conversation. We are on a planet, we are a part of each other because we are a part of an ecosystem. We are a part of the earth that holds us, and we are always a part of society, and we're never separate for something greater than ourselves, because this planet is spinning in relationship to a gigantic ball of fire, and it's spinning around it, and it's in relationship with other planets on this in this solar system, and it's in relationship with other stars and other planets in the galaxy and in the entirety of the universe. So we're always a part of something greater than ourselves. And so with this Piscean moment that drops us into the oceanic presence, that embraces and immerses us in it, we're invited to ask the question in the complexity and in the dichotomy of, if I merge into this infinite space, when have I been ever not a part of this infinite space? Now, as an archetype, and I'm I love playing with astrology as a mythical journey rather than a mystical one. It's less of a faith-based practice for me, and more of an exploration of a mythic consciousness of an exploration of it, and an excavation in the process of journeying together through our collective unconscious, and finding different aspects of ourselves in each other, and in stories and in archetypes. And of all the signs on the zodiac wheel, Pisces is the most mystical one. It's the one that's most interested in diving into the cosmos and disappearing in the dark matter, and completely dissolving into nothingness within the everythingness. But there's a little bit of a piece of a shadow to this, because when we look at different spiritual traditions, particularly in the modern world, particularly in the Western world, particularly in and definitely in the yoga world, where we're seeing a lot of white bodies, thin and able bodies, and teaching us and moving with us through a process of spirituality that calls our oneness into presence. The shadow there is that when we go into oneness, the tendency is to try to dissolve differences. And if we try to dissolve differences, then we're actually not seeing the other. And we hear it a lot, and in particularly in spiritual communities, where, oh, we're all one and it doesn't really matter, and I don't see color, I just see a person, and we're all in this together. And yes, we are all in this together, but if we're not seeing the other, then we're not seeing that there's experiences that might be different from ours. we might not see the places where we have privilege and another one doesn't. We might start to try to bypass the issues that we have in the real everyday world, particularly here in the US. So the invitation into oneness, the remembrance that we all are one, is sort of it's the beginning of the conversation. It's not the end of the conversation. So when we come into Pisces and we end in this oneness, no, the oneness is, it's the waters, the amniotic fluid of the universe, and we all come from it. We all come. All of life emerges from grandmother fish. All of life emerges from the waters that covered this whole planet at some point. And when we move into Pisces, instead of moving back into origin, where there's an attempt to dissolve differences, we can move from this oceanic presence that holds in it the possibilities of great diversity, and find in it the differences that create the infinite. Because everything that exists emerged out of the Big Bang. We all come from one place. But that place cannot be returned to because diversity has been created. And we need diversity. Plants need other plants. The more diverse the more there is biodiversity, the healthier the ecosystem is. The more we can make room for more than just our own self and more than just our own opinion, and not in the way that, oh, it doesn't matter, we're all one, your opinion doesn't matter, my opinion doesn't matter, I don't even, no, opinions matter, and visions of life, perspectives, ways of being, ways of seeing, ways of hearing, all matter. We all matter. And in that space, we can come into relationship with the discomfort of making room for things that we don't agree with. And particularly, I'm thinking of the way that there's a part of me that wants nothing to do with racism, with the far right here in the U.S. and in many other countries right now that is on the rise, that takes away that wants to take away human rights, that wants to take away here women's rights. I want nothing to do with these people. I want to put them as far away from me as I possibly can. But here's what's interesting: if the more we create a polarity, the less we're able to listen to each other and make room for each other, the more issues this world has, right? The more the hate grows. So, and I'm not saying, oh, let's just forgive them. No. How do we, I'm asking, and I'm asking this with you, how do we live in a world where there are such different views from ours? How do we make space but also don't accept certain things, right? So Pisces would want to just, oh, it just doesn't matter, we all accept each other and there's room for everyone. Yes, we all accept each other and there's room for everyone, but there are things that I'm not willing to, we're not okay with, right? So how, and who are we to decide what's okay and what's not, right? So in a way, in the sense of interconnectedness of this archetype, and in the invitation into the space of great inclusion, we can include the discomfort of not knowing how, but knowing that we want to be able to find a way to speak to each other. And that speaking really begins with listening. So we cultivate here in this archetype the ability to listen so that we can understand where certain things come from. You know, there's Pisces, in its invitation into a great listening, is considered to also be the most intuitive of the signs, right? Like this deep intuition that's also in relationship with profound imagination, with the ability to see and dream from the inside and to see what's possible from within, even when in the world that doesn't seem real or that doesn't seem possible. And in the great listening space of Pisces intuition, we are invited to learn how to listen to ourselves. That's intuition, right? And that can happen through a regulated nervous system. It cannot happen when we're hyper vigilant. It cannot happen when we are triggered, trauma triggered, and when we are constantly in a space of in a space and in a state of fear, where we're in fight, flight, or freeze mode constantly. So we want to help our nervous system regulate so that we can listen more carefully from a rested space, and then know a little bit more. It's not always going to be clear, and we're not always going to know, but we have a way to draw a bit of a map for ourselves from a regulated nervous system space. And we can do that by breathing into our belly. It's so simple. We can do that anytime. I do that sometimes when I'm driving to pick up the kids from school and I'm stressed out and I'm tired and my system is down, and so I take deep breaths into my belly. We can do that right now for a moment. You can put your hands on your belly and your eyes can be open or closed. It doesn't matter. You can soften your eyes a little bit and take a slow deep breath in. Fill up your lungs and fill up your belly. Expand your belly. And then slowly exhale all the way out. Through your nose or through your mouth. It can go either way, whatever feels supportive for you right now. And then allow another breath to flow in and fill up your lungs. And expand your belly, broaden it sideways and let it bulge forward. And then allow the air to slowly flow out through nose or mouth. And then one more time, slow breath in through the nose. Fill up lungs and belly, broaden the belly, and then exhale slowly all the way out and let it soften and release backwards. So how are you feeling in your body right now? How is your nervous system? There's a nerve that's in a part of the autonomic nervous system. It's a part of the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. So when we're activated and we're in danger, or when our trauma is triggered and we're just in hypervigilance, this nerve activates the fight, flight, or freeze mode. But when we're rested and we're regulated, it can help us be more calm and rest. And from a resting space, we can actually digest food, and also we can digest what's happening in our lives, what's happening in the world, what's happening around us, what's happening inside of us, and from there make decisions that we can say are intuitive. Now, this is great because we have a gut feeling, right? Our intuition is sometimes referred to as like a gut feeling. I had a gut feeling that I shouldn't be doing this, or that I should be walking in that direction. And so that's because we have this beautiful nerve called the vagus nerve, and it moves from the brainstem through our throat, see where the breath touches, and our lungs and our heart. It regulates the heart rate and the rhythm of our breath, and the involuntary muscle relax and contract. And then it moves through the liver and the stomach, the spleen, the pancreas, and it gets all the way into the small and large intestines, and that's where it has most of its presence. And so all this presence of this nerve that's in charge of rest and digest, or fight, flight, or freeze, are in the gut. They're in the intestines. So that's where we have that gut feeling, and it's related to our nervous system. Isn't that cool? In the book, My Grandmother's Hands, Resmaa Menakem talks about this nerve being not only an emotional nerve, but also a communal nerve. So he says that this nerve, he calls it the soul nerve, and he says that this nerve connects us to each other. Our nervous systems are in relationship with one another. We co-regulate with one another. And so he says that it can take us into a questioning and into a place of exploration of what it is that we want to belong to. So when we're regulated, we can belong to a culture, and we can create a culture that is not just because that's what we're used to, because that's what we're seeing, because that's the easy choice, because oh, I'm white and I'm Jewish born, so that's my tribe, that's where I belong to. No, with this nerve, with a regulation of the nervous system, I can choose, oh, I want to belong to a culture that is anti-racist. I want to belong to a culture that creates art and practices bringing together a biodiversity of peoples and plants and animals, and a culture that in which we all take care of each other, for example, right? So with this nerve, we can ask ourselves, what do I want to belong to? What culture do I want to belong to? What culture do I want to create? And with Pisces, we come to that place of listening both to ourselves and to each other in that space. And we're including in it the difficulty and the discomfort of being able to listen to more than just our own opinion and more than just our own self. So this archetype can invite us into a place that both accepts and questions, that dives into interconnectedness not by dissolving differences, but by understanding where differences come from and making space for differences, because that's how we can create a world that is healthier. A world that has differences in it creates more possibilities. And those possibilities can create some things that are problematic and some things that are taking us in a process of healing certain things and untangling certain things and reweaving certain ways that can help take care of ourselves and more than ourselves. And it's a big and complex conversation that we can continue for a long time, but for now, for this moment, in as we enter this Piscean portal into the ocean of our own being, we can take a few more breaths together, and we can do that with a mudra if you'd like. You can bring your thumbs to touch your ring finger, like so, and rest your hands on your thighs. And if you're driving, don't do the mudra and don't close your eyes. And if you're seated at home and you're feeling like you would like to close your eyes, you can. And if you prefer to keep them open, you may. And into the vessel of the mudra, receive a slow, deep breath that you bring into belonging all the way in the depth of your belly. Expand your belly sideways and forward, and then exhale slowly out. And into the mudra, into the vessel, and this is the mudra of, it's Jala mudra, it's the mudra of water. And mudras are vessels, and these mudras come from India, from old practices in India. Take a deep breath in and invite into the vessel that is the mudra, the water that holds the whole of you, both universal and individuated. We know, if we are parents, I know as a parent that individuation is important. You and who you are and your ego, yourself, the boundary of your skin is important. And so we breathe in and invite our individuated self, as well as the way that we are never separate from something much larger than ourselves. We breathe out to reconnect with the world around us. Our breath is a reminder that we're never apart. We breathe in and we meet the trees outside and pull them into our lungs and bring them all the way to our belly and expand the belly. And then whatever is inside us now flowing out, nourishing the plants around us. The plants need us. We need the plants. And one more breath to connect to the complexity of being individuated and expansive, united with the entirety of being, and into the powerful and not always easy invitation to do the work of deep listening. And you can release Jala mudra, this mudra of water. Release the thumb and pinky fingers and bring your hands together in front of your heart if you'd like. Soft touch of palms, of tips of fingers. And offer yourself the gift of ambiguity that swims in the waters of all of existence, your creativity and your ability to be like water that causes erosion and changes the rocks that it touches over time, over a very long period of time. And you are also the rock being changed by the waters that wash over you again and again and again. And we are smoothed out by these waves, and our shape changes and shifts. We adapt, we transform, and we hold the complexity of it all. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a beautiful new moon and a beautiful Pisces season. I'll see you soon.